Hey everyone, in this short video we will go over the basics of project management principles and processes. So, first question to ask yourself is, there's a lot on on an instructional designer's plate. So why add project management as something additional to worry about? Um, so it's the first thing we're going to cover. Why is project management important for instructional designers? Um, so maybe in the past you could get away with without project management and come up with a decent product, and some kind of instructional product. But with the increased complexity of projects that instructional designers have to deal with, you really can't hope and pray and that the best happens. So you really have to use something like project management to get quality results and also to be able to forecast completion dates for each project phase. This is something that your customers, whether you're in a corporate environment or if you're working as a freelancer, this is something that they're looking for, um, and you ensure that projects are completed on time, within budget, and within the specifications that were discussed at the beginning. So this is why project management is really important for instructional designers. Now, the first question to ask yourself is, what's a project, right? How do we know what needs project management? And obviously the question to ask yourself is, what's a project? So what's a project? It's a temporary endeavor with clearly defined beginning and end. So that means that it has a defined scope and amount of resources. What is it not? It's not a routine operation, but a specific set of operations to reach a single goal. Okay. So a little later, we're going to go over a process versus a project. What's the difference? And that'll make this a little more clear. There we go. Other terms to know. So process. I almost think of this as the opposite of a project. A process is something, it's the same thing you do over and over, right? It's steps systematically done over and over. So an example of this would be payroll, right? So payroll is done the same way over and over each time. It's not something that's new, versus a project like an instructional design project is something that didn't exist before and it's new. Obviously, it's new if it didn't exist before, but it didn't exist before and it's something that's unique. What's a program? A program is made up of related projects that are grouped together. A task is a single unit of work that can be completed by one person in less than half a day. What's project management? It's the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to address the requirements of a project. What's the project management team? It's a group of people who complete the tasks and support the project manager in completion of project objectives. Note, a project can become a process. What's an example of that? Say you're working on a new e-learning module. You're going through ADDIE, for example, analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. So once the module is done, you're not going to do that over and over. It's done. So now the continuous use of that module will be a process, right? Assigning that in the LMS or something similar, that will be a process, the same step over and over. You're not creating something new. If you create something new, that's a project. When to use project management? Obviously, ask yourself, are you dealing with a project? So what are the signs of a project? There's a definite start date and it didn't exist before. There's a definite ending that may be defined by the completion of some endpoint or the delivery of the goal. It's a unique one-time event. It's temporary. It will not be repeated. Accomplishes a goal or will deliver something that did not exist before the project started. What are the main phases of project management frameworks? So obviously there's many different frameworks are out there, but there's four steps that are common among all project management frameworks. These steps are initiate, plan, manage, and close. So initiate or start the project. That includes writing a charter. And these are basically, the charter contains the rules of this project management process. So you set the rules at the beginning, plan, or determine the schedule, required resources, and budget. So this is the planning part of the project management. Super important. This is where you estimate how long things will take. Manage. Now this is the project started. Now you're managing the project actively. Execute or control the work in progress, provide feedback, and resolve differences. There will always be differences. Close or end the project, so including documentation and holding a project review. Now here's a knowledge check. What is the difference between a project and a process? So if you remember, we said that a project is something that's unique, right? Which means it's doesn't exist, does not exist prior to this. And process is something that it's the same steps over and over. Yep, there we go. Now, what are some roles besides the project manager? So we have something called subject matter expert, SME. So in instructional design setting, this is the person that you're working with who's the master of the content, right? So for example, say you're working on some kind of data privacy or in America we have HIPAA, so it's related to data privacy. So maybe you're working with the legal team. So the lawyer or someone on the legal team that you're working with that has extensive knowledge of HIPAA, they would be considered the SME or the subject matter expert. Project sponsor. That's the person who funds the project and is responsible for ensuring that the project meets its goals. Project manager, it's pretty obvious. Project stakeholder, anyone who has a vested interest in the project. So literally anyone with a vested interest in the project can be considered a project stakeholder. Now, we're going to go through the project management process. Those are the four steps that we said were common among all project management frameworks. Let's go into a little more detail. So again, remember the first phase is initiate. So what are the important questions to ask during the initiate phase? Why are we doing this? Why are we spending money on this instead of something else? Right? So it's two very important questions that you ask yourself during the initiate phase. Tasks included in this phase are establish organizational objectives. Now, if you'll notice that these tasks help answer these questions, right? So if you establish the organizational objective, right? So for example, in a for-profit company, it'll be to either increase revenue or avoid costs or improve some kind of service. Um, establish project scope. So all the tasks and work required for delivering the service or product. Identify project objectives. So what are measurable deliverables that the project is supposed to produce, right? Um, identify risks. What are potential risks that might take place? Identify constraints. There will always be constraints. Time, you know, the people requesting the training module will want it by a certain time. What are the costs associated with the development and all other steps, obviously? Is there translation involved? So some important questions to ask yourself. Establish a governance plan. How decisions, so again, this is How will decisions be made, right? So say there's changes required, or just in general, how will decisions be made? Who all is involved in the process? Project management phases: plan. So the second phase is planning. Now, important questions to ask yourself um, by the initiate phase. This should say the planning phase, obviously. What work needs to be completed and when? How should we propose to design, organize, and execute the project? So what are important questions? What are important tasks in this phase? Determine key milestones. Again, this is obviously, as the top says, that this is planning. So you're going to determine the high level goals, the dates of the high level goals, establish a schedule, estimate completion time for each task. Might need to work backwards. So say you have a deadline, you have a firm deadline. So in order to reach your deadline, work backwards. The project has to be delivered by this date. That means that we need to get these other phases done by these dates. Assigning resources, team members, and physical items. Create a budget. Create a communication plan. How will all stakeholders stay informed? Develop a risk management plan. So you're always taking risks. So how will you deal with that? So maybe what are some potential risks? Work completed by inexperienced team members. Changing of requirements, right? So it's really important to have a plan to deal with these. Develop a change management plan. How change requests will be approved and who can make them. Project management phases. Manage. During this phase, instructional designers in a project management role monitor, manage, and execute the project plan. What are some tasks included in this phase? Control work in progress. So that's tracking, reviewing, and reporting progress. Provide status and feedback. Resolve conflict. Manage change. Change is inevitable. Have a process for how changes are addressed using the project governance plan. And lastly, manage risk. The last phase is close. So what are some tasks related to this phase? Turn over deliverables. Kind of obvious. Hold a post-project review, something super important, because this is how you improve your process. You reflect back on how things went and how you can improve things for next time. Finalize documentation, list of things not accomplished during the project. Prepare a final budget report and complete the final report. Celebrate accomplishments. Recognize contributions of everyone involved. An important part of this phase is the opportunity to learn through post-project reviews and share their experiences with the rest of the organization. So, final knowledge check. What are the phases that are common among all project management frameworks? So what are they? They are initiate, plan, manage, and close. There you go. And that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And you have a great day.